Hi everyone, I want to talk for a moment about section 3. Section 3 is really a make it or break it section, right? When section 3 is working well, the rest of the essays should virtually write itself. It pretty much comes together. Section 4 is natural, it's just the math of pairing up new learning with each learning outcome. Sections 1 and 2 are the structure that builds what you have leading into section 3. When it's not quite solid, the rest of the essay is painful, right? It's hard to write. It feels like you're pulling teeth out of your head to try to get enough for part 2, enough for part 1, or maybe you're wandering in the parameters that you're trying to set. So, section 3, how do we master that? If you go back to the beginning of this course, it's the very first thing that we worked on together, were your learning outcomes. You've got to have those nailed, and they've got to be succinct, they have to be specific, and they need to be unique to you. Make sure that you're reading the sample essays in our guide. Those should give you ideas. I've tried to stock those with very different sample essays so that if one really doesn't have anything to do with the kind of learning that you're describing, at least you'll find another one that maybe relates in some way. Make sure that you're reading section 6, part 6 in the student guide. About 5 years ago, I went to our provost and said, I need a bunch of syllabi from the Newburgh campus, ordinary, traditional undergrad courses. I need a bunch of them. And all I did was I pulled those learning outcomes straight off and I put a bunch of them in here. And some of them, I was actually laughing as I put them in there. Social skills, that's on general psychology, and that's the learning outcome. Kind of broad. Don't write that, please. You need a complete sentence. But I just want you to see the variety, the different kinds of courses that we're looking at, and the different kinds of ways that these learning outcomes are written. Yours needs to be a single sentence, needs to be underlined, but it has to be, here's what you have to tackle that's so difficult. It has to be specific to you, but general enough to be taught to others. That's where I think people often get caught. So the way that I think about it is once you've got a sense of what your learning was and you're able to articulate it, imagine if you're standing in front of all of us. You've met everyone by watching everyone's videos. You've seen me every week. So if we're all sitting in a classroom with you and you are required to stand before us for an hour, I want each of you thinking right now of one of your learning outcomes, only one, not your whole learning experience, one learning outcome. If you're to stand before us for an hour, maybe 2 hours, you're going to come up with some exercises, some discussion questions, some reading materials based on that learning outcome. Is it teachable? Is it something that we will walk away knowing something different that we didn't know before? How can you articulate that? When you write the learning outcome, start your paragraph with it, underline it, and then don't repeat it again. Don't repeat it again. Don't keep defining it, and I'm not sure if it's clear, so I'm going to say it a second time, third time, fourth time. We all have those friends. My uncle has a thing that he's been doing where if he goes like this, he'll try to do it very casually, but it's never really very casual. It means you've already told me that story, so you might want to stop. The other day, he lives in Seattle, but he was in town. He's going like this to my mom. She's still telling her story, not getting it at all. We all have those friends who either tell a story over and over or say the same thing several times to where you're like, okay, come on, get on with the story. In your writing, please don't do that. This goes for any paragraph you ever write. Thesis statement, purpose of your paragraph. Do not say it again because you're not quite sure if your reader got it the first time. If you're not sure your reader got it the first time, write it over. Clarify it until that sentence is so perfect that of course your readers understood it, and then the only other information that you include is very specific evidence. What we're looking for, along with your learning outcome, is some kind of an outside source, maybe even two for a learning outcome. If you feel like you're stretching it with a single one, you could have two, you could even have 3 outside sources. Most people can only fit one in a single paragraph on a learning outcome. It's up to you. How do you pick the outside source? So imagine a classroom. What kind of outside sources, what kind of textbooks, what kind of readings, what kind of online readings would you be given in a university class? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for your ability to take your own learning and demonstrate an awareness of the conversations that are going on either in academia, in the business world, in the healthcare world, whatever it might be that relates to your topic, that you have an understanding of the conversations that are currently happening and how your learning fits into it. When you're able to demonstrate that, that is what's going to earn you points. Understand that the learning outcomes are so critical, not just to these essays, But as a university, to every single course that we offer, we are required to write learning outcomes that once those are agreed on, voted on by faculty, they go into the academic catalog, they cannot be easily changed. We have to go up through a whole chain of authority to get those changed. And when an accreditor comes in and is looking at a university to make sure that the accreditation is still solid, that's one of the first things that they look at are those learning outcomes. What are they? Are they being covered in the time that the class is offered? And how are they being covered? Are they being assessed? Are they being assessed effectively? Learning outcomes are really the linchpin of any good course. That's why we're asking you to write them to demonstrate what kind of learning has occurred for you. If you're struggling with these, don't hesitate to send me an email. Several of you are just asking me questions as you go. Send me a paragraph if you're not sure if you're wording something correctly or if you're not sure about a source. Now, let me say, I put this in a couple of your discussion forums last week, but I want all of you to hear it. If you go to our main webpage, so number one, go to the George Fox University webpage, and then up in the search bar, search adult degree programs. You can just put in ADP. Then look over on the left side and look for faculty and staff. Click on that. You're going to see my face up at the top, but scroll on down. Look for Robin Ashford. Robin Ashford is our reference librarian. She is actually in a few months going to be the head librarian for the Portland Center also, but she is specific to our department and she is there at email instantly, ready to help you find sources. That is her job. It's what she loves to do. So if you have any questions, you're not quite sure which direction to go, I just sent her emails over the weekend and she answered them first thing this morning, looking for new potential e-books, e-resources for some courses that I'm designing. She sent me lists of over 50 different possible resources. Fabulous. Things that I wouldn't necessarily find. So use her as a resource. I look forward to reading your revisions. These are the first revisions you've done, so I look forward to those. I will get them back to you sometime this week. God bless.